What's the most disturbing, creepy thing you've done that would get you into serious trouble if anyone found out? We were in college. I was very good at academics. She wasn't, but she was quite attractive. We had been involved in the past, though we hadn't dated in over 7 months. We stayed in the same circle of friends, so we still talked from time to time. Then finals came. She was anxious about her exams and wanted me to teach her things she hadn't learned over months. She also asked me to help her write an essay that was worth a lot of points in her class. I had my own classes, a job, and a lot on my plate, and had been in a sort of dry spell. She also had a boyfriend. I told her over the internet that I would write her essay and spend a full day teaching her for the exam. I had already taken that class, but only if she agreed to do it with me. Her boyfriend didn't need to know, and our relationship status wouldn't change. We would have an hour or two in her apartment where I could be with her, and after I was satisfied, I would help her. She reluctantly agreed, and we set a meeting at her apartment on a Sunday afternoon, 1 week before her final. But when Sunday came, I chickened out. I didn't go to her apartment. She texted me late that night, asking, "Why didn't you come?" I told her I didn't want to do it with someone who was willing to cheat on her boyfriend in exchange for an essay and help on a final. The next day, I wrote an essay that would satisfy her teacher and sent her links to the materials that had helped me study. We didn't talk much after that. That was 8 years ago. She is getting married later this year, to the boyfriend she had planned to cheat on. Even now, I'm still not sure what would have happened if I had gone to her apartment. Story 2. I used to catfish, and the guilt is killing me. So, I'm 19 now, and I've been clean from this stuff for over a year. When I was younger, I used to catfish. I'd go on Kick pretending to be an attractive girl to get dong pictures, just for a quick solo. Sometimes, I even used photos of people I knew. I'd upload them to Imgur or wherever to make sure they couldn't be traced. I'd also go into chat rooms and use fake macho photos to get girls to show themselves on webcam. I genuinely feel bad about it, and it still haunts me. Like I said, I've been clean for over a year. It was an addiction, and a bad one. Even when I first started, I'd tell myself I'd stop, but I kept going until I finally did. I just feel so bad, and I need to get this off my chest. All the photos and everything from that time are gone. I never abused or blackmailed anyone, and the worst I ever did was call someone a bish. But it was still completely wrong of me to do any of it just to get off. One of my wake-up calls was with this girl who must have been around my age or a little younger. Her brother kept walking into the room, and she kept pushing him out. Some awful thoughts crossed my mind, ones I never acted on or said, but I also couldn't look away at first. Eventually, I bailed, and that moment hit me hard. That was my turning point. I've made peace with most of the other things I did. I recognize they were wrong, but I was young, and I know I'll never do anything like that again. But that one moment still haunts me. I swear, on my life, I'll never repeat any of this. I actually have morals now, and I understand I can't treat people that way. Still, I can't shake the feeling that I'm the worst person on the planet. I'm so sorry to everyone. And whenever I see the girls I knew whose photos I used, I know I can never tell them. Never have any kind of relationship with them. I ruined that. I'm just grateful none of them were hurt. Story 3. Over the years, I've been a terrible friend. I'll start with a couple of stories about things I regret, and I'll continue to confess my horrible deeds over time. First confession. This happened back in college. At the time, I was known in my circle of friends for being tech-savvy. This was around when smartphones were first becoming popular, and tasks like backing up devices and updating them were tricky for novice users. One of my friends asked me to root his Android phone. I told him it was no problem. He dropped his phone off with me, and I said it should take about an hour. He lived right up the hall from me, so he said he'd be back quickly. I sat down with his phone, and first thing, I backed up all his data just in case I accidentally wiped his storage. Normally, when someone is right there watching, I would just do a quick drag and drop of the folders. But my curiosity got the better of me. I opened his photos and videos folder, intending to look for pictures of his girlfriend. Instead, I found not only pictures, but also videos of them together. I ended up saving all of them on my hard drive and used them over time whenever I wanted. This happened about 7 years ago. I regret it deeply. My friend and his girlfriend are still together, and they are married now. I didn't delete the photos and videos until about a year ago. Second confession. This also happened in college. I had a female friend I was really close with, very close. She was in a long-distance relationship, and she told me she wanted to send her boyfriend some videos. She asked how she could send them, so I told her about Dropbox. I explained that she could record the video, upload it to her Dropbox, and send him a private download link. For the next couple of days, I became obsessed with the idea of seeing what she sent him. She used my laptop regularly whenever she stopped by my room, and she always logged in to her Facebook, email, and everything else, so I installed a keylogger on my laptop to record her keystrokes. It was a long shot, but I figured that, like most novice tech users, she probably used the same email and password combination across multiple accounts. One day, she stopped by, went through her usual Facebook routine on my laptop, and left later that day. I couldn't wait to try her password on her Dropbox account, and of course, it worked. Same email and password as her Facebook. I logged into her Dropbox and found the files sitting in her trash bin, a feature I hadn't thought to mention to her. I temporarily restored the files, downloaded them, then deleted them again, taking the extra step of emptying her trash just in case it timestamped the new delete date. I figured it wasn't too risky, since she'd probably never be back on that account. The videos weren't particularly good, dark, with bad camera angles. This was back around 2008 or 2009, and she was using a flip phone, so the quality was poor. I kept those videos in my stash for about 6 or 7 years. Story 4. I secretly watched my roommate sleep. Okay, I know this sounds creepy, but hear me out. I've been secretly watching my roommate sleep for the past few weeks. It all started when I accidentally walked into her room one night and saw her sleeping. There was something about it that fascinated me, so I started to sneak into her room every night and watch her sleep. I know it's wrong, and I feel terrible about it, but I just can't stop. I've been careful not to wake her or disturb her in any way. I just watch her for a few minutes and then leave. But the guilt is eating me up inside. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't have any feelings for my roommate, and I'm not attracted to her in that way. I think it's just something about the vulnerability of a person when they're sleeping that fascinates me. I know that what I'm doing is wrong and that it's a violation of my roommate's privacy. I'm worried that if she finds out, she'll be horrified and never speak to me again. But at the same time, I can't seem to stop myself. I've tried to rationalize my behavior by telling myself that it's not hurting anyone and that it's just a harmless fascination. But I know deep down that it's wrong, and I feel like a terrible person for doing it. I don't know what to do. Should I confess to my roommate and risk losing her trust and friendship? Or should I just try to stop on my own and hope that I can control myself? I'm really torn about this, and I know that what I'm doing is not okay, but I just can't seem to stop myself, and it doesn't affect her if she doesn't know about it. Story 5. For the past year, I've been living in a first-floor flat of a Victorian house in London. It's part of a terrace, and the view from my kitchen at the back of the house gives me an almost perfect view into the next-door neighbor's bedroom. I iron a shirt every morning for work. When I first moved in, I set up the ironing board in the kitchen and noticed the couple next door getting up and starting their day. The angle of my flat relative to theirs is such that it would be very difficult for them to see if they were being observed. The angle is very much to the observer's advantage. Ever since, I've been casually and consistently observing their activities. I know their schedule. Who gets up first? She does. How long it takes them to get ready, shower, and their breakfast habits. I even know that when they're both out of the room, their cat has a habit of jumping onto the bedside table to drink from their glass of water. The woman, in her mid-30s, attractive and curvy, finishes her shower and then comes back into the bedroom. I can only see the bedroom. The bathroom is opaque glass and they have a blind, but she starts getting ready almost in front of the window, presumably for better light for her makeup and hair. If our mutual timings coincide, I see her getting dressed. The blinds are always open and the bedroom light is on. It's winter in London and mornings are dark. This morning was the best yet. She stood by the side of her bed and afforded me a great view of her chesticles before she put her dress on. I only take advantage of this in the mornings when I iron my shirt. Some mornings, our schedules shift and the blinds stay down, or we miss each other. I admit I sometimes stretch the time it takes to iron if I sense we're approaching the interesting part. Occasionally, I get annoyed that she spends too long moisturizing and not enough time getting dressed. I've also seen her husband a few times, though that isn't my interest. I've never seen them doing it. Mostly, I just get mild titillation from that fleeting occasional glimpse of her chesticles. I'm moving house in a few weeks, so this will be the end of it. I've enjoyed it, and I don't feel bad about it. Story 6. I followed a girl online for several months, and then I took things one step too far. I originally found this girl completely at random on Tumblr, just clicking through posts and source links until I landed on a picture. Her picture. She was beautiful, easily one of the most stunning girls I had ever seen. I scrolled through her Tumblr feed and from her posts found all her other social media profiles. They were all public: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. She wasn't shy about what she shared. There were plenty of private photos mixed in with her everyday pictures. She was absolutely breathtaking. One day, while browsing her Instagram feed on a third-party site, I noticed something. Her photos were geotagged. 1, 2, 3, and more. Geotags mapping out her entire life. Holy crap. It couldn't be. Most of the tags were less than an hour away from me. She didn't live across the world. She was within driving distance. And that's when it started. I don't know what came over me, but I began digging deeper. I felt like I had to. Over the next several months, I pieced together everything from her different social profiles. I figured out where she lived, where she worked, where she went to school, what she was studying, which campus she was on, even which building. I started to piece together her schedule. I learned who her closest friends were, their names, and where they lived. She had geotagged photos taken at their houses. I figured out where her parents lived, where her sister lived, and where her boyfriend stayed. She posted so many photos of the inside of her house that I could almost sketch the layout. I knew the places she visited, the spots she liked to hang out, what car she drove, and even where she stopped for gas. To pinpoint certain locations, I went as far as using Google Maps, flipping between satellite and street view to match trees and other details visible through windows or in the backgrounds of her photos. I couldn't stop. For some reason, it felt exhilarating. I knew I wasn't supposed to have this information, and I was certain nobody else did. With all the little fragments she scattered online, I pieced together a puzzle detailing her entire life. It felt incredible, and I still don't know why. I wasn't doing anything with the information. It just felt like a game. Until one day, on my way home, I stopped to run a few errands. I pulled up to a red light when it suddenly hit me. This was the place. I was in her neighborhood. I recognized everything around me, even though I had never been here before. I recognized the sign, the stores, the trees. I was here. It wasn't just a game anymore. When the light turned green, I made a choice. I drove around the neighborhood until I reached her street. There it was. I drove down the road, and right ahead of me was her house, her car, her. Everything I had pieced together was real, not just a collection of ones and zeros anymore. I drove by, staring at the house. I even recognized the curtains in the window, the same ones she had posted a picture of months earlier. What the hell was I doing? I hit the gas and drove straight home. I had to get away. This wasn't a game, you idiot. It's someone's life. I'm not entirely sure why I'm posting this. It has been over a month since I drove past her house, and I haven't even considered continuing any of that behavior. But I felt like I needed to tell the story. It was a strange feeling, even if it doesn't sound that dramatic to anyone else. At the very least, take this as a warning to protect your identity online. Individually, she never posted much, but she probably never expected someone to piece everything together. Story 7. When I went to college, I stayed in a dorm with a guy I met for the first time on move-in day. I was probably more introverted than the average freshman, while my roommate was a total social butterfly. I figured he could help me learn to talk to people better. He was really friendly, which actually makes me feel pretty bad about what I'm about to say. He was the kind of guy everyone liked being around. He just knew how to make people happy. One weekend, we went to a party that he had found and invited me to. He said he would help me talk to girls, so I went along. It wasn't the worst experience I've ever had, but I was pretty awkward. My roommate, on the other hand, met a girl and brought her back to the dorm. He asked me to hang out somewhere else to give him some private time with her. I didn't mind. I mean, at least one of us was getting lucky. Since we had plenty of places to go at any time, I made myself scarce that night. While I was away from the dorm that night, I went online and bought a camera along with a few knickknacks to disguise it and hide it in. I chose a camera I could control from my phone, so whenever he asked me to give him some privacy, I could turn it on and record or watch from wherever I was. Throughout the rest of that year, I got 11 videos of him with 5 different girls. Only one girl did not go all the way with. To his credit, he was very polite to her even when she was turning down his advances. Story 8. It actually took me years for it to finally hit me. Whenever I have a crush, it completely blows out of proportion. Of course, the typical crush that everyone has probably experienced comes with butterflies and a bit of nervousness around the person. I have that, but there is much more. Much more. My grades slip. They're constantly on my mind. When I wake up, they're usually the first thing I think of. I make sure to find every social media account they have. I look at every single post, every comment, every friend, every photo they're in. I check their accounts usually more than 4 or 5 times a day. I also Google them online, hoping to stumble across anything new. I track down where they live and compare the distance from my house. I never go by or do anything, though. I don't want my crush to know how obsessed I really am. I get jealous. A lot. I try not to show it, but it feels horrible. I hate their friends immensely. I obsessively look at my crushes and want to be around them constantly. I go crazy over the weekend because I don't see them for such a long time. How much I like someone is basically determined by how long I spend around them. The less I see them, the less I like them. The more I see them, the more I like them. For instance, in 5th grade, I liked a boy. In 6th grade, I became obsessed with him. Summer came and I stopped. School started and I liked him again. The same happened in 8th grade. Then he moved away for good, and I stopped liking him completely. A crush that lasted 3 years. I didn't even get over it on my own since I was technically forced to. I can't control my emotions. I want to cry. It's getting serious. There are so many times I feel restrained. If I didn't care so much about what my crush thought of me, I would show up at his house and look through the window, hoping to see him. I would pester all his friends to get every bit of information about him. Judging from what I have said so far, most people might assume I am a violent person, like the psychopaths in Reddit stories, the crazy exes and admirers. I am the opposite of that. No one who knows me would ever imagine I think this way. I'm bubbly and kind toward those who are kind to me. I never resort to physical interactions unless it's playful wrestling with friends. No one has a clue how obsessive my thoughts can get. I hate how I get so attached to people. I've liked someone for 6 months and despise myself for it. I pretend not to be obsessed and refrain from speaking about the person all the time, even though I want to, because I don't want my friends, and most importantly my crush, to know. Bottom line, I need some advice for dealing with my out-of-control feelings. I need help coping with them if I can. Surprisingly, I do let go easily sometimes. You know that kid who moved in 8th grade? The one I was obsessed with for 3 years? When I found out he was gone, I was shocked and sad for about 15 minutes, and then I didn't really care. So my issue is figuring out how to handle my feelings when I like someone. Keep in mind, this is just a light description. I feel a lot more than I've described so far. I hope I get over my current crush over the summer and don't have any classes with him next year because I would probably fall for him again. I rarely get crushes, but when I do, someone better watch out. I've only had 4 crushes in total, and 3 of them were part of my obsessions. Anyway, that's about it. Note: please don't take offense to anything I've shared. I don't mean or want to act this way. I'm just looking for genuine advice. Please don't call me crazy or weird. I already know that about myself. Story 9. I'm a disgusting person and I hate myself for it. I have a history of secretly taking pictures of girls for my own use. I would hold my phone in a way that made it look like I was just resting it or doing something innocent, but I would angle the camera toward the girl I was focused on and quietly snap photos. There are probably more than a dozen girls whose pictures I have saved on my computer, and they have no idea. From my personality and appearance, no one would guess anything strange about me. I look well kept, dress nicely, and try to be friendly. To most people, I appear completely normal. This is something I am deeply ashamed of, and I have never told anyone about it, except anonymously. A couple of years ago, I met a girl at my school who happened to be pursuing the same degree as me. I thought she was very attractive, so I started taking secret pictures of her during class. At the time, I never imagined that she and I would become friends, but since we took many of the same classes, we gradually started talking. I eventually realized we actually have a lot in common. We share many interests and hobbies, have similar personalities and lifestyles, and even the same sense of humor. I found out early on that she has a serious boyfriend, so our relationship stayed completely platonic. At this point, I would honestly consider her one of my closest friends, if not my very best friend. We hang out at her apartment, we text and Snapchat every day, we are working on our year-long senior project together, and we even convinced each other to get pet hamsters at the same time. We have shared very personal things with each other. She has even opened up to me about her struggles with depression, something deeply personal to her. Now, here's the sick, twisted part. Throughout the entire process of us becoming friends, and even up to this very day, I have continued to take pictures of her any chance I get for my use later. While I don't view her in a romantic way at all anymore because of her boyfriend, I continue to find her unbelievably attractive. I have all kinds of photos of her wearing all kinds of outfits. One day, when we were at her apartment, she left for less than 5 minutes to grab dinner, restaurant within walking distance, and she left me alone in her apartment. While she was gone, I went through her drawers, found where she kept her clothes, and took pictures of them. That's my story. To this day, she still has no idea, and she doesn't seem to suspect a thing. I mean, why would she? Why would one of her best friends do something so disturbing? I have no intentions of ever telling her about this. It would absolutely destroy our friendship and probably scar her for life. I know what I did was wrong, and I live with that guilt. Just remember that even the people who look the most innocent and unassuming can have dark secrets. Story 10. I once followed a girl and successfully got her as a girlfriend because of it. I was introduced to a beautiful girl through some friends. She felt way out of my league, but I became completely obsessed with her. She was my dream girl. I would sit outside her apartment building waiting for her to come out and then follow her in her car in the hope of bumping into her. This went on for quite some time, as she often went to places where it would have been unlikely for me to run into her. She was a medical student at the time. One day, she got in her car, and I followed her. She ended up at a Trader Joe's, which was perfect. I parked and went into the store as well, quickly grabbing a basket and shopping in the opposite direction. After a while, I got closer and executed the final bump into moment. "Oh hey, how have you been? How's med school?" Blah blah. I ended up getting her number. This was before texting, so I had to call her and we would talk. After some time, we started hanging out doing different things, and ultimately began dating. I was the happiest I had ever been. She even invited me to her family home for the holidays, which was literally the best experience of my life. For those who detest what I did, do not worry. I got what I deserved. After about a year, she broke up with me without ever explaining why, and I have never seen her since. It was the worst breakup I had ever endured. I fell into a dark depression. This was about 15 years ago. I am now married with children, but I still think of her constantly. Sometimes, life just sucks. Story 11. I cyberstalked a stranger during the pandemic. This lasted from January 2021 to August 2021. I was doing university remotely and was feeling very lonely, though this obviously does not excuse what I did. While researching old news on a website, I came across a story about a girl who had died in a tragic accident a few years earlier. I saw a photo of her brother and found him very attractive. I Googled him and discovered that he was only a couple of years older than I am. I found his social media accounts and liked what he wrote, as I found him intelligent, witty, articulate, and of course, very attractive. I began scouring his Facebook for photos of him posted by friends and family, staring at them and imagining being with him. I tried to find his old social media accounts to see what his personality was like as a teenager. I found his Spotify account and liked that we shared similar music tastes. I literally fell into a depression when I realized I could never be with him, that my fantasies about him were not real, and that he would never know I existed. Rationally, a guy would probably not want to know or be with someone who was cyberstalking him. At this point, I really wanted to know who he actually was by accessing his personal information, and I was tired of only seeing what he chose to share on social media. It all came to a head when I tried to find his email address by clicking reset password on his Facebook account so I could see the hints it revealed. I ended up guessing his email correctly and then tried to access the account by guessing his security questions. One of the questions asked for his mother's maiden name, and since I had an Ancestry account, I searched the database but found nothing. After about an hour, I was frustrated and asked myself why I was doing this and why it made me feel so happy to piece together the life of someone who would probably be terrified if he knew what I had done. After I returned to university in person, I gradually stopped thinking about him, but that period of stalking still comes back to me sometimes. I know that behavior wasn't normal, but I'm not sure how it would be categorized. Story 12. I made a fake OkCupid profile to flirt with my brother's ex, someone I had always had strong feelings for. The first time I met my brother's now ex-wife, when she was just his girlfriend, I had the hardest and longest lasting stiffy of my life. No woman had ever affected me like that, and she, let's call her Michelle, did it just by existing. I shame-soloed that night, partially feeling guilty but mostly glad that someone walked this earth. It made me hopeful. They got married 2 years later. She still attracted me endlessly, but I could control it much better. At one point, I had a job offer where they lived, a couple of hours north, but I turned it down because I didn't trust myself around her. She never flirted or acted inappropriately, but I spent every minute in her presence fighting the urge to stare, or worse, touch. They got divorced last year. I tried to be there for my brother and even took him camping. I should say here, I love my brother. We're 2 years apart and grew up as best friends. I would do anything for him, but he's a flawed guy. Even from his side, I could tell he had mistreated her and she left him. The guilt grew as I found myself secretly happy that she was single. Meanwhile, he quickly started dating the girl she had caught him texting with. I considered contacting her but knew it was wrong, so I didn't. I focused on my life, softball, and work. I dated a girl for a bit but ended it when I realized I was just passing time. I found myself constantly checking Michelle's Facebook page and would get ridiculously happy when she liked my posts. I battled urges to contact her. I admired how she handled her divorce with grace and dignity. I loved how she rarely posed for pictures and seemed to be laughing in every single one. I love her body, her hair, her voice, her smile, her hands, everything about her. She's wonderful, sexy, and kind. She volunteers, collects salt and pepper shakers, and makes band posters and album art. She's the coolest person. I agree with her politics, and she always seems to be reading what I'm reading. And here's where I become even creepier. She once mentioned something about OkCupid. I made a fake profile and found her. I started checking her OkCupid page as much as her Facebook, and it made me love her even more. One night, I messaged her. It felt amazing to finally say the things I had always wanted to tell her. Of course, it was probably too much, and she blocked me. I made another profile and took it easier this time. She wrote back. We started talking, and I lived to hear from her, to read her words for me. Within a week, we were talking every night. We eventually switched to email. I'm ashamed I used fake pictures, but I couldn't bring myself to use my own. It lasted 2 months, the 2 best months of my life. We were intimate and loving. It was everything I had ever wanted, but I finally realized I was being a jerk. I told her I had lied about what I looked like and said goodbye. She's such an angel that she tried to give me another chance after that. I'm trying to get a transfer to another country. I deleted my Facebook and every connection I had to her. I love her, but I mistreated her and could never truly be with her. So I needed to stop. I feel empty and alone now, but I had no other healthy choice. So, Reddit, that's my confession. I'm an obsessed creeper. Story 13. I have been secretly fattening my girlfriend up for about 9 months now. She was always a tight, thin girl who played soccer and did yoga very frequently. About 9 months ago, however, she rolled her ankle playing soccer and had stopped being active in order to heal. She slowly put on a few pounds, and I loved it. Then I got the great idea to start fattening her up on purpose. I would buy all sorts of pastries, donuts, chocolate, chips, cookies, and ice cream, and leave them around the house for her. I'd bring home greasy fast food for her, complete with milkshakes and large orders of fries. At first, she was upset that I was bringing all these fattening foods home, but I knew she was secretly eating them and losing her control. I took her out to eat at a nice restaurant about 3 months in, and that's when I really noticed how much weight she had put on. Her outfit was so tight on her, it drove me wild. She was upset with how she looked, but I told her she looked amazing and I loved her anyway, and that we could start eating better and exercising more, which was the honest truth. I had gotten my fill, but it seemed she had gotten used to her new lazy lifestyle. She got an office job around 5 months ago, and she has ballooned since. She's constantly eating out, drinking heavy beers, and sitting at her computer snacking away all day. I am loving it. Her thin body is now a chubby, jiggly one. I've just been catering to her, staying in and watching movies and bringing her home cookies and fries and milkshakes. She confided in me recently while we were both drinking the other night. telling me she had gained 40 pounds since she had rolled her ankle. It is so hot to see her letting herself go like this. I love all the new weight she has, watching her stuff her face and seeing the pounds pile on. She's asked me to stop buying sweets and leaving them in the house because she just eats them all and I never have any. Little does she know that they are all meant for her. I'll stop buying the sweets, but I'll still be bringing home greasy fast food and fattening milkshakes for her until she plans on sticking to losing the weight. I love secretly fattening her up, but it's her body, and I will support the decision to lose the weight if she ever sticks to it and stops being a glutton. Story 14. I once followed a girl in the street, and I still feel guilty about it a decade later. You might be disturbed or disgusted by this. I was walking down the street on a hot summer day, alone, wearing a dark black oversized nylon jacket. I was extremely ashamed of how my body was changing, so I regularly covered myself like that. Then I saw an extremely attractive girl in front of me, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. Before I realized it, I found myself following her. Halfway through, she noticed and began looking back at me frequently, clearly worried. About 10 minutes later, she hailed the first taxi she saw on the street, seemingly crying, and left. The moment she got away, my senses immediately returned, and I ran off. Imagine being followed by some weird foreigner guy, a stocky person in an oversized jacket sweating heavily in the heat. That is what I must have looked like. I don't even fully understand what I thought I was doing. If I remember correctly, I believed I wanted to beg her to sleep with me, as if that were somehow a real possibility. My mind processed it in a completely warped way. I still regret what happened to this day. Almost every time I feel happy or peaceful, the memory comes back, as if my mind is telling me I don't deserve it. Then I fall into a depressive state where I stay in bed all day. Whenever someone says I'm a good person, that memory surfaces again. I just can't seem to get it out of my head. No one knows about this, and I feel guilty that I'm the one who carries the weight of it, when it should be the girl who was affected most. Even though it's unlikely, if you ever happen to read this, please know that I am sorry. Truly sorry, regretful, and guilty. Story 15. I am a 24-year-old woman who has been following other women since early high school. I know it is wrong, but no one can figure out why I do it. Not knowing the reason makes it difficult to find a therapeutic plan to stop. I am straight, but I have never followed a man. Only women, and only attractive women. I am also considered conventionally attractive, so it is not out of jealousy. I have never had a true female friend. I also never follow anyone in person, as that would ruin it. I stalk online. I have about 4 people whose profiles, and the profiles of their relatives, I routinely check for new photos. I enjoy learning about their hobbies and the art they create. It feels like collecting Neopets. I have no interest in ever meeting them. This sounds wrong, and I know it is, but what I do is objectification in its purest form. I have always loved webkins, trading cards, and Neopets. Collecting things has always been an obsession. When I try to stop checking profiles, the urge to do it again overwhelms me so intensely that I can feel it in my throat. Again, I have no attraction to these women. The reason they have to be attractive is the same as with any other collection. If I wanted to collect rocks, I would want the sparkly and rare ones to study. It is the same as with webkins, Neopets, and trading cards. These women mean nothing to me personally. Meeting them would ruin everything. They are not celebrities or influencers. They live nearby, and I know them in some way. Still, I am addicted to it. I suppose I am posting this because I desperately want help. I know it is violating, but I cannot stop. It feels like a drug. I need to understand why I feel such a strong need to do it. Most following involves romantic attraction, but this is none of that. I do not care about these women personally. I only care that they are pretty, which makes their hobbies seem cuter by a halo effect. There is something horribly wrong with me, I know that. But simply, getting therapy has not worked. People without experience in therapy often do not understand that if a behavior is particularly obscure, you need to understand why you do it, or you risk receiving the wrong advice. Story 16. I never intend to use this account again, so I might as well share a secret I have never told anyone and never plan to tell anyone. I once discovered that in a co-ed bathroom, because a person's head is higher than the rest of their body, placing a camera in a certain spot allowed me to take pictures of people without them ever seeing me. I ended up taking quite a few pictures. When everything started to fall apart and I was afraid of being caught, I deleted all the photos and decided to stop. Until that moment, I had never really considered how frightened or violated people would feel. I used to think that if they didn't know, it wouldn't hurt them. But I realized that if they ever found out, they would completely lose it, and even the small chance of that happening was not worth it. Story 17. In college during the 1990s, I was almost friends with our young network administrator. I even visited his house near campus, and we played board games together. My partner wrote a small DOS application that pretended the user had been logged off the network. When someone returned to the console and logged in, the program would record their username and password, then instantly log off again with a message suggesting they had typed their password incorrectly. The user would try once more, succeed, and assume they had simply made a typo. We kept the program running on our favorite workstation almost full-time while we were around and misused it by putting corn onto our colleagues' accounts. The network administrator would usually respond by deleting them and reducing the user's storage quota by the size of what he had removed. One day, the network administrator came in and logged into his account on our workstation. I did not have the courage to tell him on the spot that we had just captured his password. So, we did what we thought was the most appropriate. We downloaded a large amount of corn into his own private user account. A few days later, I went to see him and said that my password was no longer working. He agreed to reset it, and I told him to reset it to whatever his own password was. Our friendship kept me from facing any consequences. But even if I had been in trouble, the look on his face would have made it worth it. Story 18. I've gone through every single picture of the girls I'm friends with on Facebook and X-rayed them with Photoshop. I currently have a file with over 75 X-rayed photos of over 50 girls. I wear sunglasses at the pool, but not for the sun. I've turned staring at girls into an art. I'm buying a mini camera that looks like a keyless entry remote for the sole purpose of capturing videos. I've got a hot neighbor the same age as me. I've been planning a way to get into her house and search her computer for photos. Same with her phone. I even snatched my ex-roommate's camera and phone SD cards, copied all the files, and returned them as they were while he was in the shower once. Both had pictures of his girlfriend on them. Story 19. I followed a guy home from the store and now worry that I might be mental. A 20-year-old woman did something very unusual today. I was at the store around 12:30 when I noticed a man who caught my attention, so I walked past to get a better look while pretending to shop. I found him very attractive but continued on my way. I saw him a few more times by coincidence, and as I was leaving self-checkout, he was entering. We made eye contact for a split second. After I walked out of the store, I wanted to see him again, so I stood outside looking at my phone. When he eventually left, I started walking to my car and glanced across the parking lot where I saw him getting into his car. Once I left, he had left as well, but he was closer to the exit, and I was 2 cars behind him in the queue. In that moment, I decided to follow him, and I still have no idea why. I guess I just wanted to see whether he was local or something like that. He turned left onto the main road and immediately took the first left again onto the street right beside the store, which confirmed that he lived very close. He drove up that street and turned right, and I then decided to make a U-turn and head home because I felt confused, unsure why I was doing this, and did not want him to suspect anything. About 9 hours later, at 9:30, I drove down the street where he had turned right. After a few minutes, I found his car, noted the house it was parked at, and went home. Once home, I used a standard real estate database that shows current and previous owners of a residence. Even though he wasn't the owner, I managed to find him through the owner's Facebook page, which belonged to his mother. I learned that he is the same age as me, 20, and saw information about his university from Facebook and Instagram. Honestly, I have no idea why I did this. It feels strange and completely out of character, since I've never done anything like this before. I had no bad intentions with any of this information. It just feels so weird and unsettling. Am I crazy? Am I losing it? Story 20. I followed a random girl at night 5 years ago. First off, I know how psycho this sounds, and I don't want to pretend I have any excuses for my behavior. I still have no idea why I ever thought doing something like this was a good idea. It was absolutely despicable. I'm now 21, almost 5 years later, and I just want to come clean. My girlfriend knows too, as I recently told her everything. So 5 years ago, I was feeling quite lonely during the pandemic, at a time when restrictions weren't very strict. With nobody to hang out with, I developed a habit of wandering the streets of my hometown, mostly at night. I had social anxiety, so the combination of pandemic masks, a hoodie, and the darkness helped me avoid being noticed by acquaintances from high school. These walks happened every 2 days, sometimes even daily, mostly whenever I felt I had spent too much time with my family confined within 4 walls. When I did this, I usually played music through my earphones, mostly The Weeknd, who was my favorite artist at the time. I spent the walks thinking about everyday stuff, imagining scenarios, and fantasizing about crushes, typical teenage things. About 8 months before this incident, The Weeknd released the album After Hours, which features the song In Your Eyes. Its video shows The Weeknd caught in a sort of purgatory, stalking and following his ex around town, until the end when she finally kills him. Now that the exposition is done, let's get into the facts. On the night of the incident, the 4th of January, I wandered aimlessly around the few streets I knew in my town, listening to The Weeknd's album. Suddenly, In Your Eyes came on, and sequences from its video flashed in my mind, drawing my attention to a girl in front of me. She was blonde, dressed casually for winter, and walking her dog. An idea formed in my head. What would it be like to follow her around, just to see how far I could go, and what might happen? In my defense, even though nothing could change how cruel this already was, I didn't intend to harm her or anything like that. I was just curious how it would feel, bored, and wanting to reenact what The Weeknd does in the video, to feel a thrill, to rebel against goodness. I don't really know, though she clearly couldn't have known any of this. With that in mind, I slowed my pace and started walking about 5 meters behind her. It went as I expected. At one point, I wanted to be less predictable, so I took another path to give her the impression she wasn't being followed, only to catch up to her again 2 blocks later, and it worked. Once again, I was behind her. Maybe 2 minutes later, we reached a more public street, and I was still following at a distance. At one point, she stopped to let her dog smell a tree. Not wanting to lose sight of her, I stopped as well, pretending to look at something on my phone. When she started walking again, I did too, until a man stepped out of a car in the parking lot to my left and approached me. He asked quickly if I was all right. I said yes. He repeated, "Young man, are you sure you're all right?" I said yes again, and he told me, "Go home." By that point, I realized exactly how this looked and just hoped to get out of there without anything escalating. Afterward, I went to buy some soda and drank the whole bottle so fast that I almost threw up for no real reason. Then I went home. It wasn't until a few days later that I fully understood how much trouble I could have gotten into. Not to mention how awful the situation must have been for that girl. I am sorry for what I did. I wasn't aware at all of the harm I might have caused. If I could meet her, I would tell her how sorry I am, even though that would probably be very frightening for her if she recognized me. I truly hope she didn't notice me at all, and that it was only the man who realized what I was doing. Sadly, the damage is already done, and I can't go back and undo it. That was an isolated event. I never did anything like that again. Now, with a girlfriend I've fiercely protected for some time, I fully realize how creepy, scary, and downright stupid my behavior was. I don't blame anyone but myself for that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.